Shabbat Shalom, child of the Most High. I trust and I believe you all had a good week and a blessed week. So thank you for joining us for this week's Shabbat Table Manna. And the portion that we're doing this week, the Torah or the Parasha portion, is called Shelach Lecha, and it means send for yourself. So we will see why Abba Yah speaks to Moshe, to Moses, and he tells Moses to send for yourself. Our portions that we're reading is Numbers 13 to Numbers 15:41, Joshua 2 verses 1 to 24, Hebrews 3 verses 7 to 19, and then Romans 8 verse 31 and 37. So like I said, this portion is called Shelach Lecha. It means send for yourself. And there's a reason why Abba tells Moses to send the people for himself, to check out, to go and see, to go and explore the promised land. So continuing on from last week, we see that Abba speaks to Moses, and Moses listens when the Father speaks. So when we study the life of Moses, then we see that Father calls him a friend. Abba says that he speaks to Moses face to face. And it's the reason why Abba speaks to Moses face to face, because when Father speaks, Moses listens. So maybe we should start listening more to when Abba speaks. We saw that Father speaks through his mouth and through his instructions, and we are to listen when he speaks, or we are to move when he moves. We also see that Father continues in this portion. Abba continues with his order of leadership. Father tells Moses to send leaders from the tribes. In other words, Moses were not told to have a democratic election. Moses were not told to choose people, to choose other people as leaders. Moses was not told to have some sort of voting system. Now, Moses obeys the Father's instructions when Abba says, send the leaders of the tribes. So when we read Numbers 13 verse 1 to 2, Numbers 13 verse 1 to 2, then we see that Abba Yahuwah speaks to Moshe and he says, send out for yourself men so that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I am going to give to the sons of Israel. You shall send a man from each of their father's tribes, everyone a leader among them. So the question we need to start off today is, whose idea was it to send these men, these spies, these leaders of the tribes into the land? We also need to clarify what they were supposed to do in this land. So firstly, the word translated here as spies is not spies, as it is, and we read in our Bibles. The actual word means tour. So the 12 men were sent out to tour the land and not to spy out the land. And there's a big difference between spying and touring, and we must understand this. So yes, they were told to tour through the land. You see, they were told to go and experience the land, to enjoy the land, go and see the things that this land offers. Just like when you and I would go on a holiday, or we would go and tour Israel or tour whatever other country or place or town, is for you and me to visit that place. It's for you and me to experience the food, the surroundings, the buildings, the people. You see, because through experience, you and I acquire knowledge. Through this experiencing of this place, we get to know this place. We get to know this people. So they were not told to spy out, because to spy is to go secretly. To spy out means to be undercover. You see, they were told to tour this beautiful country, to tour this land of Canaan, not to spy in secret, not to go and check out this land or its people, in secret, but to be amongst them, to walk amongst them, to eat amongst them. So already we start to see the intention of Moses sending them out is to tour out this land. But as we are going to continue with this study, we'll see this was not the mindset of some of these men. So who sent them out? Whose idea was it to send these 12 men? What we just read, Father says, Abba speaks to Moshe, he says, send out for yourself men. So immediately in Numbers 13 verse 1 and 2 makes it sound that this was Abba's idea. So it sounds like this was the Father's idea to tell Moses, listen, we're here on the boundary, we're here on the starting point for this promise I've got for you, but send out people to go and explore the land. But when we read Deuteronomy 1, verse 21 and 23, I want you to read it with me, Deuteronomy 1, verse 21 and 23, then it says, see, Yah, your Elohim, has set the land before you. Go up and possess it, as Yah, your Elohim of your fathers, has spoken to you. Do not fear nor be discouraged. So can we see this? So Moses and the nation of Israel got to this border of Canaan. They got to this promised land that was spoken of, this promised land that was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this promised land that was given to the people of Israel. They're on this border now. So Father has already told them it's a land of milk and honey. He's already told them it's a land of plentiful abundance. So now they're on this border. And listen what Moses continues to say. And he says, and all of you came near to me and said, let us send men before us. So here we see a different picture now. Now we see that men came to Moses, probably the leaders of the tribes comes to Moses and say, let us send men before us. And let them search out the land for us. And bring back word to us of the way by which we should go up, and of the cities into which we would come. And the matters was good in my eyes. So I took 12 of your men, 1 man for each tribe. So can we see that this people, this group of men came to Moses and say, listen, yes, we know we're here on the border and this is the promised land, but let's send out men to bring us information, to come and tell us about the people, about the abundance, about these cities. So can we see immediately there's a distrust, there's a doubt, there's a possibility of these people are unsure of what is lying ahead. Instead of just trusting, they're doubting. So can we see the full story here? It was the people who came to Moses and asked him to send people into the land. Just to make sure that what Abba Yah said, just to make sure that what the Father has been saying is the truth. So can we see that there's a difference in mindset here? Can we start to see that the heart of these people not fully believing or trusting the Father? And so how many times do we act just exactly the same way? Abba Yah will give us a word or a blessing, but we do not believe the Father. It might seem like an impossible task, and so we ask people to confirm what we're going through. We ask people to confirm what they see is what we see. We ask people to confirm with Abba Yahuwah on our behalf. Because maybe we're not sure. Maybe we think we heard incorrectly. Maybe what we see, our circumstances makes us negative. And now we start doubting. And so Moses, after being approached by the people, went to Abba Yah. And he asked the Father, what should he do? And Abba said, yes, okay. But Father says, send men for yourself. You see, this man was not to confirm what Father knows already. Abba says, go and check for yourself. You see, child of Abba, Yahuwah, Abba is everywhere. He knows what He has for you and me. He knows what is laying ahead, what's the promises waiting for you and me. Abba knows. He's already given us what we need to enter into the promised land. And all He asks of you and me is for us to trust Him. But we want to see ourselves, isn't it? We just want to make sure Abba is not lying to us. We just want to make sure that this promise is what I want. It's not what the Father wants for me, it's what I want. Does it suit me? Does it suit my circumstances? Does it suit the time I'm in right now in my life? Abba Yah did not tell Moses to send men so that he himself can make sure it is the promise he wants to give us. No, it's for the people to see the Father's promises. It was for the people to see the abundance, this land of milk and honey. It was for the people to see that He's not lying. There is a blessing for them. We read in Numbers 13, verse 17 to 20, and Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said to them, go up here into the south and go up into the mountains and see what the land is like, and the people who dwell in it, whether strong or weak, whether few or many, and whether the land they dwell in is good or evil, whether the cities they inhabit are in camps or strongholds, or whether the land is rich or poor, whether there are forests there or not. And you shall be strong and bring some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the season of the first fruits. Can we see the report that's been asked here? Go and explore the land. Go and dwell with the people. So they had to go and experience this land. And then we read from Numbers 13:25 to 32. And they, this men that was supposed to go and tour the land, they returned from touring or spying out of the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moshe and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel in the wilderness of Paran and Kadesh. And they brought back word to them and to all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they reported to him and said, we went to the land where you sent us, and truly it flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. But the people who dwell in the land are strong. So here we get a but. So there's a blessing, but the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are walled, very great. And we saw the descendants of Anak there too, the Amalekites, dwell in the land of the south, while the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains. And the Canaanites dwell by the sea along the banks of the Jordan. And Caleb silenced the people before Moshe and said, let us go up at once and take possession, for we are certainly able to overcome it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we are not able to come up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they gave the children of Israel an evil report for the land which they had spied out, saying, the land through which we have gone as spies is a land eating up its inhabitants. And all the people who we saw in it are men of great size. So this week's portion is a very important reading for you and me in our faith life. It's very important for us because we get to see, we get to experience the promises of the Father and how we should act on it when we get to His blessings. You see, so when we're standing there by the border, when we see the blessing in front of us, how are we going to act on it, my brother and sister? This week we will learn that we can follow the Father, yes. We can study His Word as much as we want to. We can know all the Father's blessings and promises. But the question is, when that door's open for us to walk into this promise, to walk into this new season, this blessing that the Father has for you and me, how will we approach it? Would we stand on this border? Would we stand there when the door opens? Because He's the one who opens up doors. He's the one who closes it, according to Revelation. When we stand there by the door, are we going to believe when we see the promise? Are we going to step into it? Are we going to walk into it with faith and trust? Or are we going to be unsure? Are we going to doubt Him? You see, because the blessing in front of us, the new season that's standing in front of us, might require from you and me a leap of faith. This blessing, this season, this new beginning in front of us might require from you and me to leave behind what we know. It might require from us to boldly step up. It might require from us to take hold of this promise that the Father has for us and boldly enter into it. You see, the blessings of the Father, His promises, does not require us to doubt. It requires us to step into it. No matter what we see, no matter what we feel, will we trust Him? Will we trust Abba, knowing His truth? Like I said earlier, we can know Him. We can walk in relationship with Him. We can study His Word every week. But when He opens a new door, when He takes us to a new season, will we boldly enter into it? That is the question. That is what's facing Israel today. You see, child of Yah, even when we don't understand what's happening, even if it does not look like a blessing, even if it does not look like something we want right now, even if we do not understand the situation, do we trust the Father enough? Do we know His heart for you and me enough to boldly go into this promise He has for us? Do we walk by faith enough and not by sight? You see, child of Abba Yah, it does not matter what we experience or what we see in the natural. Do we see and experience the Spirit of the Father? My brother and sister, we should not be led by what we see, but we should be led by the mouth and by the word of Yah. We should be led by His cloud, His presence. Just as we learned last week, because that's the way Abba Yah moves. So we should keep our eyes on Him. And we should start to see things the way He sees it. We should perceive matters as the Spirit guides us. And do not perceive with our fleshly eyes and our hearts of stone. So if we then walk by faith and not by sight, then my brother and sister, we should not allow things around us to influence us. So therefore, you and I need to stay in the Word. We need to stay in relationship with Abba Yahuwah, because through His light, we will be able to see more clearly. You see, only He is light. Without Him, we're in darkness. Therefore, we need to stay close to Him. When the cloud moves, we need to move. We should stop relying on our own perceptions and ask the Father to open up our eyes to see what He sees. And not to listen to the lie of the enemy. You see, because the enemy, Satan, wants to discourage you and me. The enemy wants us to see our circumstances as impossible. Our enemy wants us to see what lies ahead of us as overwhelming. It's too big for you and me to conquer. You see, because what you and I see or perceive with our fleshly eyes will influence our mindset. So is what you and I discern the truth from the Father, or are we listening to our emotions? Are we listening to what we feel? Are we listening to what we see with our fleshly eyes? Or are we listening to what other people see and what other people feel and what other people say? We read in Psalm 119, verse 36 to 37, "Incline my heart to your witnesses, and not to own gain. Turn away my eyes from looking at falsehood, and revive me in your way." Revive me in your way, my brothers and sisters. That should be our prayer. What do we allow ourselves to see? Or what do we feed ourselves with in the Spirit? Whatever we continue to put inside ourselves, that will shape who we are. That will shape our mindset. That will shape what we perceive and how we perceive things. How we think. How we see the world around us. How we see circumstances. You see, and a negative mindset will cause you and me, listen to this, a negative mindset will cause you and me to miss our blessings. It will cause you and me to miss the new season, the new opportunities the Father has for us. Therefore, we need to be filled with the Ruach of Yah. We need to be filled with His mind, with His ways, with His Spirit, with His will. Then we will see things redemptively. In other words, brother and sister, then we will see His heart. We will see His promises of restoration and salvation for you and me. Romans 8 verse 5 to 8 we read, "For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the matters of the flesh. But those who live according to the Spirit, the matters of the Spirit. For the mind of the flesh is death, but the mind of the Spirit is life and peace, because the mind of the flesh is enmity towards Elohim. For it does not subject itself to the Torah of Elohim." Can we see this rebellion? For it does not submit to the Torah, the instructions of Elohim, neither indeed is it able. And those who are in the flesh are unable to please Elohim. So we need to constantly pay attention to the word and the voice of the Father. We need to constantly pay attention to the cloud, my brother and sister. We need to seek His footsteps and follow them. To walk in our own ways is rebellion. To walk in our own ways is to seek our own will, and it's not pleasing the Father. You see, to walk in our own ways means we're not listening to Ruach. Because not obeying Him is rebelling against Abba. We must submit to His word. We must submit to His heart. Proverbs 23 verse 7a says, "For as he reckons in his life, so is he." So what we think, what we plan, and what we meditate on is ultimately what we will become, my brothers and sisters. So it's not just what we look at. It's what we think. What do we ponder on? What motivates you and me, my brother and sister? Is my circumstances surrounding me? Is it surrounding me? Is it overwhelming me? Is that what I'm pondering on? Because then I will become that. So it's not just what I see, but it's also how I interpret what I see. Do I allow the Spirit of the Father, do I allow the Ruach to teach me? Or would I follow the opinions of the majority, just like Israel did? Am I so set in my ways? Am I so set in my beliefs that I refuse to listen to the Ruach of the Father? That I refuse to listen to His prophet or His teachers when they bring me a word? So as we know, these 12 men had to go and view the land. They had to go and experience the land. They had to go and see the promises of Yahuwah. They had to stand in faith on the promises of the land. You see, they had to stand in faith to see the goodness of the Father, and not to see the circumstances, these giants, these fortified cities. They had to stand and trust the Father and not believe the lie of what they're seeing. You see, Israel was told about the goodness of the land before they entered into the land. So they knew it's a land of milk and honey. They've seen the hand of Yah. They had no reason to doubt Him. But 10 men came back, doubting Abba Yahuwah. Just the same today, and every day, child of Yah, we have the choice to walk in faith or not. We can walk according to the things we see and experience in this life, or we can walk according to the instructions, according to the mouth of Abba Yahuwah, according to His Ruach. So now these 12 men went into the land, but 10 of them brought back a slanderous report, an evil report against the land. In other words, brothers and sisters, 10 of these 12 men literally spoke negatively against the land. They gave a report that contradicted the Father's word. They basically said that this so-called promised land is not meant for us. This so-called promised land does not suit them. You see, child of Abba Yahuwah, we must understand what happened here today. These 12 men did not eat manna in the promised land. Let's get this picture. They did not eat manna in the promised land. No, they ate from the land. They ate its bountiful fruit. They drank waters from its rivers. They experienced the goodness of the land, but still they gave a report that is different to what Abba Yahuwah promised. They gave an evil report, a negative report. Psalm 34:8 says, "Taste and see that Yah is good." That is what these 12 men had to go and see. They had to tour through this land, eat from this land. They had to taste the promises of Abba Yahuwah. They had to see that His blessings, His promise are sure and true. They had to taste the fruit of the land, but 10 of them turned their back on the land. They turned their backs on the promises of Abba Yah, but 2 men did not. Caleb and Joshua did not. They saw the truth of the Father. They saw the blessing of the land. So again, we see that 12 men went into land, 12 men came back. But 10 of them had an evil report. 2 had a good report. You see, child of Yah, they had the same experiences while they were in the land. They walked the same roads. They drank from the same rivers. They slept at the same places. They saw the same things. So what happened here? Why the different reports? Is some lying and some not? Did they not go to the same land then? No, child of Abba Yah. They brought back the same report, but their interpretations was different. Their experiences was different. Their mindsets were different. The way they perceived the land and the people was different. So they all reported the facts of what they saw in this land. But they are reporting it according to their views and their opinions, how they perceived what they saw and what they experienced. In other words, child of the Most High, they reported the land on what they saw with their fleshly eyes and their hearts, their emotions. So 10 of the men are reporting facts on what they saw and not on what Abba Yahuwah said to the people. They believed their perceptions and their views of the land and the people of the land. You see, they believed that rather instead of believing the Father. They acted faithlessly. They acted fleshly because of fear. Yes, they believed the lie of fear more than what they believed the hand of Abba Yah. They did not stand in faith. Moses asked them to report on the fruit, the abundance of the land and the people, and of the cities, and of the rest of the land. But they reported more on the people and of the fortified cities than what they reported on the fruit and the abundance of the land. You see, their focus was to have been on the fruit of the land, the promise of the Father, to see the blessings of Abba Yahuwah, and not just on the difficulty of the conquest. Not of the obstacles that's lying ahead, not of the circumstances they would be facing. So their order of reporting was wrong. They focused on the negative instead of the positive. They focused on the fortified cities. They focused on the size of the people instead of the size of the promise of the Father. Child of the Most High, they focused on the size of the battle instead focusing on the size of the hand of their deliverer and their Savior. And is that what we do in our lives? We focus on the battle. We focus on the size of the battle instead of focusing on the size of the promises of what the Father has for you and me. 2 Corinthians 2 verse 14 we read, "But thanks be to Allah who always leads us on to overcome in Messiah and manifest through us the fragrance of His knowledge in every place." Focusing on Messiah. You see, because He overcame. And when we focus on Messiah, when He is in us, we will overcome, my brother and sister. You see, so they should have said, yes, the land is good. It is a land of plenty. It is a land of milk and honey. And yes, there will be some hard battles. But wow, this land is amazing. Truly, Yahuwah is great. But instead, they came back with a report that was different. A report that said, yes, the land is good, but we are too weak to overcome. We are too weak to fight these people. We are too small in their eyes. We're like grasshoppers in their eyes. Their cities are too big for us to conquer. Can we see the difference in mindset here? Can we see the difference in interpreting what we see? Can we see the difference of being led by the Ruach, the Spirit of the Father, or being led by my fleshly eyes? We can't fight these peoples. We can't overcome them. That's what they said. Romans 8:37 says, "But in all this we are more than overcomers through Him who loved us." Is this verse part of our daily lives? Are we living this verse daily, day by day, especially the times we're going in now, brothers and sisters? Are we living Romans 8:37? Are we more than overcomers through Him who loved us? Do we overcome because the Spirit of Yah is in us? Numbers 13:30 we read, "And Caleb silenced the people before Moshe and said, 'Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are certainly able to overcome.'" Is this our attitude in whatever circumstances we face? Are we overcomers, or are we like these 10 other spies whose opinions are that Israel can't enter in because the people of the land is stronger than Abba Yah? So they are saying, even if Yahuwah is with us, these people will kill us. Even if Yahuwah is with us, we are too weak. We will not overcome them. We will not make it. So yes, Yah is good. And yes, He gave us manna. And yes, He gave us water. And yes, He delivered us from Egypt and Pharaoh. And yes, His cloud covering is with us. But still, it's not good enough. But still, this land will overcome us. Is that our mindsets, my brother and sister? We pray every day. We study His word. We believe we're in relationship with the Father. But when we face our circumstances, when we face a giant, then we doubt. Then we want to run away in fear. So what happened to the hand of Abba Yahuwah then? What happens to His promises, His blessings, His instructions? What happens to His presence, His provision, His protection then when we face our circumstances, when we face these giants? What is our mindset or our faith like when we face our circumstances, brothers and sisters? Do we also believe Yah is good, but not good enough to help me through this thing I'm facing now? Do I believe Abba Yahuwah is good, but He's not good enough to carry me through this battle? Yes, Abba Yahuwah is good, but He's not good enough to deliver me from my enemies. What is our mindset today, my brothers and sisters? We read in Numbers 13, verse 33, and we saw there the Nephilim, sons of Anak of the Nephilim, and we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and so we were in their eyes. Is this how we see ourselves, how we perceive ourselves? What goes through our minds when we come face to face with our circumstances, or when we have to enter into a promise? Do we believe that we are good enough, or do we compare ourselves to other people? Do we think we are unworthy? Do we think we are not good enough? Do we look at this world thinking that we must conform to it or else we will die? Do we look at this world thinking that we must conform to it or else we will die? No, child of Yah. We are more than overcomers through Messiah. Do we think of ourselves a specific way and think that everyone who sees me think the same way about me? Child of the Most High, we need to see ourselves as Abba Yah sees us. We need to look at Him. We need to walk in His footsteps. We need to look through His eyes. When we look through His eyes, His word and His heart becomes a reality. Then we start to get a clear picture of who we are in Him. You see, if I do not know who I am in Him, then I don't know my true identity. That's when I will see myself as a grasshopper. Because I don't know my Father, because I don't know who I am in Him, therefore I see myself as a grasshopper. I see myself as nothing. I see myself as unworthy. I see myself as worthless. Numbers 14, verse 7 to 8. And they spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, the land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If Yahuwah has delighted in us, then He shall bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which is flowing with milk and honey. This is Caleb speaking. He says this land is a good land. The promises of Abba Yahuwah is good, He's true, He's faithful, my brothers and sisters. We just need to Shema. Caleb and Joshua is telling Israel, Shema, hear, listen, obey Israel. We need to hear the voice of the Father. The cloud is moving. The cloud wants to take us into the promises. The trumpets is blowing. The mouth of Yahuwah is speaking. His heart is calling us. Are we going to go into these promises or not? Because He's bigger. He's good. He's faithful. He's trustworthy. He's given us this land. We just need to step up. We just need to go into this promise. Are we walking in that truth, my brothers and sisters? We read in Deuteronomy 11, verse 8 to 12. And you shall guard every command which I command you today, so that you are strong. Listen, so that you are strong, and shall go in and shall possess the land which you are passing over to possess. And to prolong your days in the land which Yah swore to give to your fathers, to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land which you are going in to possess, it's not like the land of Mitzrayim from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot as a vegetable garden. But the land which you are passing over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks waters from the rain of the heavens, a land which Yahuwah Yahuwah looks after. Listen, a land that He looks after. The eyes of Yah Yahuwah are always on it, from the beginning of the year till the latter end of the year. Can we see what Abba Yahuwah is saying here? Father is saying He cares for this land. Abba cares for His people. You see, Yahuwah is saying that if we listen to Him, if we follow Him, if we trust Him, then He will give us water and rain at the right times, my brothers and sisters. He will let us eat from the bounty of the land. Child of Yahuwah, Father is saying that we will have what we need when we need it. Do we even believe this promise? Do we even know this promise? Are we going to stand in the boldness like Caleb and Joshua in front of the people, proclaiming the goodness and truth of Yah, saying that because Yahuwah said so, we can overcome, because He brought us out of bondage, we can enter into His blessings? Or are we going to lose heart like the other 10 men? My dear brother and sister, we must realize what happened here. Listen. We must realize what happened here. 10 men caused the nation of Israel not to enter into the promised land the Father had for them. The lies and the false reports of these men caused the nation to die in the wilderness. Child of Yah, our negative speaking, our slanderous speaking, our fleshly eyes mindset, our evil perceivement can cause people around us to die in the spirit and not enter into the promises of Yah. You see, people focus on what they want to focus. And what you and I focus on, we will become like that. We will get stuck in that. If we focus on the negative, if we focus on the impossible, then our hearts will become or will be overcome by fear. And then the next step is that we will give up. We say no, just like these 10 men with the evil report said no. We will say no. We'll say we can't do it. No, it's impossible for anyone. That is what happened here to these peoples, my brother and sister. They became negative. They started focusing on the impossible. They started focusing on what they had in Egypt. And we read this in Numbers 14, verse 2 to 4. And all the children of Israel grumbled against Moshe and against Aaron. And all the congregation said to them, if only we had died in the land of Mitzrayim, or if only we had died in this wilderness. And why is Yahuwah bringing us to this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and children should become a prey? Would it not be better for us to turn back to Mitzrayim? And then they said to each other, let us appoint a leader and let us turn back to Mitzrayim. You see, child of Yah, when we appoint men, we appoint them to suit our circumstances, to suit our points of view, to suit our ideas and our will. Father wants us to step into the promise. The nation of Israel, what did they focus on? Why did they become so fearful? You see, their circumstances became their reality. What they saw and what they heard from these 12 men became their reality. What they spoke over themselves became their reality. And so many times we believe whatever we believe, my brothers and sisters, that ultimately turns out to become our reality. That turns out to happen as the way we see it or believe it or perceive it. We're supposed to go into the rest of the Father, into His promises and blessings. We're not to die in the wilderness, my brothers. If we can't believe, then we won't. Then we won't believe the Father's promises He has for each and every one of His children. And only we will then determine if we enter into it or not. We can be like the majority of Israel and be negative and turn our backs on His presence, His protection and His provision. Or we can choose to be like Caleb and Joshua. We can choose life. We can choose to boldly go into this new season. We read in Numbers 15 verse 1 to 3. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you have come into the land of your dwellings, which I'm giving you, and you make an offering by fire to Yah, an ascending offering or a slaughtering, to accomplish a vow or as a voluntary offering, or in your appointed times to make a sweet fragrance to Yah, from the herd or the flock. Child of Abba Yah, Father has a promise for His people, and if we are too blind to see it, or if we are too negative to accept it, if we walk with a mindset of that it is impossible, then Father will raise up someone else. Listen what I'm saying today. Father will raise up someone else, because that is what happened here. Father is reminding them about the promised land and what they should do when they enter into the promised land. It's a reminder that the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will be fulfilled. Even if this generation do not believe Him. My brothers and sisters, when you go and study Numbers 14, these people died except for Caleb and Joshua and the young ones. If you and I do not believe the promises, if we do not accept these promises, if we do not step up into purpose, if we do not walk in faith, if we do not go into the calling Father has for us, then we will die. Abba will remove that. It will be closed to you and me, and Father will raise up someone else to walk in that purpose, to walk in that calling. Someone else to step up, someone else to believe Him, someone else to go into the blessings and the promises He had for you and me. So there's a promised land, my brothers and sisters. But it is for those who walk in faith and in obedience. So there's a promise. Israel will go in. Maybe not these people, maybe not this generation, but the next generation. Those who believe will go in. Anyone who wants to serve Abba Yahuwah in spirit and truth will go in. Anyone who submits to His mouth and His instructions, to His Ruach, will go in. We read Numbers 15 verse 14 to 16. And when a stranger sojourns with you, or whoever is among you throughout your generations, and would make an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahuwah, as you do, so he does. One law is for you, for the assembly and for the stranger who sojourns with you. A law forever throughout your generations. As you are, so is the stranger before Yah. One Torah and one right ruling is for you and for the stranger who sojourns with you. Can we see this, my brothers and sisters? One blessing. One promised land for every one of us. One law, one Eluah, one spirit, one salvation. Anyone who wants to serve Yah, anyone who wants to follow Abba Yahuwah must do as His word teaches us. We must follow His word. There's only one way to please Him. There's only one way to be saved. There's only one way to worship Him. Numbers 15 verse 38 to 40 we read, "Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, make tzitzi on the corners of the garments throughout their generations, and to put a blue cord in the tzitzi of the corner, and it shall be to you a tzitzit. And you shall see it, and you shall remember all the commands of Yahuwah, and shall do them, and not search after your own heart." Listen, and not search after your own heart. In other words, do not rebel against me. And your eyes, and after your own eyes, after which you went whoring, so that you remember and shall do all my commands, and be set apart unto your Eluah. Can we see the reason for the tzitzit? Is to remind me and you to walk in His ways. Can we see why the command of the tzitzit is here in between in these verses? From what happened from Numbers 13 onwards. Why was it given after the land was rejected? Why did the Father give the tzitzit after telling us about the offerings of the land? You see, brothers and sisters, rebellion is about doing things our own ways. It is about following my own heart. But Abba Yahuwah is giving us His instructions of the tzitzit. He's telling us to follow His heart, to follow His way. And the tzitzit is to remind us of that. A reminder to walk with Him in faith. A reminder to walk in His light and not to rebel against Him. Not to walk out our own ways, our own opinions, our own perceptions, our own views, my brothers and sisters. We are to keep His word. We are to keep His instructions. And we are to follow, we are to obey. We are to shema, to hear, to listen, and to do, to act on it. We read in Jeremiah 17 verse 9. "The heart is crooked above all and desperately sick. Who shall know it?" Therefore, we should not follow our own hearts, my brothers and sisters. 1 John 2:16, "Because all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world." Again, do not follow your eyes, my brothers and sisters. Do not follow the opinions of men. Do not follow our own expectations or views or perceptions, but let's keep our eyes on Yahuwah. Child of Yah, we are to keep the instructions of Yah. Numbers 15:39 says, "Do not search after your own heart. Do not search after your own eyes. Do not follow your heart, child of Yah. Do not focus on your emotions. Do not focus on your own pleasures. Because many times that's guided by worldly lusts, worldly views and opinions and interpretations. But rather, Jeremiah 29:13, "And you shall seek me, and you shall find me when you search for me with your heart." You see, that's the purpose of your heart and my heart, is to search the Father in our hearts. Not opinions and interpretations and worldly views and lusts. Our hearts is meant for Him. Serve Yahuwah with all your heart. Child of Yah, fill your heart with who the Father is. Jeremiah 32 verse 37 to 41. See, I'm gathering them out of all the lands where I have driven them in my displeasure and in my wrath and in great rage, and I shall bring them back to this place, and I shall let them dwell in safety, and they shall be my people, and I shall be their allure, and I shall give them one heart. Can we see this? One heart and one way to fear me all the days, for the good of them and for their children after them, and I shall make an everlasting covenant with them, that I do not turn back from doing good to them. And I shall put my fear in their hearts, and so as not to turn aside from me, and I shall rejoice over them, to do good to them, and I shall plant them in this land in truth. Listen, with all my heart and with all my being. Child of the Most High, did we see what the Father is saying here? With all my heart and with all my being. Did you know that this verse is the only verse in the Bible where Abba says he will do something wholeheartedly? He will do it with his heart, with his whole being. And that is to bring his children from the nations, from the bondage, from whatever is keeping us back from him. Father wants to bring us. He wants to plant us in his land. Father wants to bring us to his presence. Father is calling us back to him. But we need to walk in his ways. We need to see things as he sees it. Abba instructs us to make tzitzis as a reminder to see his word and promises on a daily basis. Child of Yah, the land is a good land. The promise of Abba Yahuwah is good promises. He is faithful to accomplish all that he said he would. You and I just need to trust him to walk in faith. James 1 verse 17 says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change nor shadow of turning. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I'm planning for you, declares Abba Yahuwah, plans of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and an expectancy. Father says there's a future, and we can know and we can expect that truth from him. So are we going to see with the eyes of Joshua and Caleb, or with the eyes of the 10 spies who brought an evil report? These men who believed the lies of Satan. It's our choice. We can believe the truth and the promises of the Father, or we can believe the lies of Satan. Let's pray. Holy and Most High Abba Father, thank you for this week, Abba Yahuwah. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for the sun that came up every day. Thank you for the moon and the stars that shine at night, Father. Thank you for your order. Thank you for your harmony, Father. Thank you for who you are. Because you are everlasting. You are truth. You are good and you are faithful, Abba. And it's my prayer, Abba Yahuwah, that your bride, that your remnant, that your children will live in your truth, that they will see your truth, Father, that they will see their circumstances through your eyes, that they will feel their circumstances through your heart, Father. That we will no longer be guided by the lies of the enemy, that we will no longer be guided by the opinions and the views and the interpretations of this world, Father, but that we will be guided by your heart and by your eyes. Thank you, Abba. May your truth dwell in us. May your truth guide us. May your truth equip us. May we stay in your instructions. Thank you for the Shabbat. Thank you that we can enter into your rest. That we can enter into this promise of your Shabbat, of your Sabbath. Thank you, Messiah Yahushua, that you are the King of Kings, that you are the one that's coming again, that you are coming to take us to the promised land. May you find faith in this world. May you find us walking in faith and in truth. I praise you and I honor you. And I pray all of this in your mighty name. Thank you, Yahushua, Son of Abba Yah. Receive this blessing from the Father. Yevarechecha Yahuwah v'yishmerecha. Yair Yahuwah panav elecha v'chunecha. Yesa panav eleka v'yasem lecha shalom. Yahuwah bless you and keep you, my brothers and sisters. Abba Yahuwah makes his face shine upon you, and he'll be gracious to you. Abba Yahuwah lifts up his countenance upon you, and he gives you peace. Shalom, shalom.